My successful career was emasculating my husband. Now his fragile ego is learning to deal with a divorce instead of my promotion. I, 34F, never thought my marriage would end over a salary difference, but here we are. When I first met my husband 7 years ago, we were both entry-level employees at different companies, making almost identical salaries. We used to joke about our matching paychecks, saying we were financially compatible. Looking back now, I should have noticed how he always emphasized that part, the matching, the equality, the sameness. 3 weeks ago, I received a promotion that would increase my annual income to $95,000, about $30,000 more than my husband makes. I still remember sitting in my boss's office, trying to maintain professional composure while my heart was doing backflips. The promotion meant leading a team of 12 people, having direct input in company strategy, and finally getting the corner office I'd been eyeing for years. But more than that, it meant we could start seriously planning for our future. The down payment for a house we'd been saving for would come faster. The family we'd been putting off due to financial stability concerns could finally be a reality. Maybe we could even take that European vacation we'd been dreaming about since our honeymoon got downgraded to a weekend in Atlantic City due to budget constraints. I practically floated through the rest of the workday, already mentally rearranging furniture in our future house. I even stopped at the grocery store on my way home to pick up a bottle of champagne, the good kind, not the $12 stuff we usually get for celebrations. I wanted to make the moment special when I told him. That excitement lasted exactly 2 hours, right until my husband came home. I had everything set up. Dinner warming in the oven, champagne chilling, even put on the dress he'd bought me for our last anniversary. The moment he walked in, I couldn't contain myself. The words tumbled out before he'd even taken off his jacket. I got the promotion. The silence that followed felt like a physical presence in the room. He just stared at me, still standing in the doorway, his jacket half off. No congratulations. No smile. Just this cold, hard look I'd never seen before. Then he said, "You need to turn it down." Just like that, like he was telling me what to pick up from the grocery store. I laughed at first, thinking he was joking. We'd talked about this promotion possibility for months. He'd even helped me prepare for the interviews, running through potential questions late into the night. But as I looked at his face, the laughter died in my throat. He wasn't joking. What followed was an hour-long argument that would fundamentally change how I saw our marriage. He explained in painfully clear terms how emasculating it would be for his wife to make significantly more than him. He brought up his father's comments about how modern women don't respect traditional family values. He talked about how it would look to his colleagues, many of whom had stay-at-home wives or partners in more suitable careers like teaching or nursing. "What about our future?" I asked, gesturing to the pile of house listings we'd been collecting. "This money could help us get there faster." "Money isn't everything," he replied, though I distinctly remembered him saying the opposite when we delayed starting a family due to finances. "There are more important things in a marriage than a bigger paycheck." Then came the ultimatum. Either I turned down the promotion and stay at my current position, or he would have to rethink our marriage. The lasagna grew cold. The champagne stayed corked. I went to bed alone that night, listening to him watch TV in the living room, the volume turned up just loud enough to make sure I knew he was choosing to stay there. The next 2 weeks were an exercise in emotional endurance. He barely spoke to me, started coming home late, and when he was home, he'd make passive-aggressive comments about career women and how money changes people. Every time I tried to discuss it rationally, he'd shut down or turn it around on me, asking if I really needed the extra money, suggesting that my ambition was a sign of dissatisfaction with our marriage. I tried to get him to go to couples counseling. He refused, saying we didn't need a stranger telling us how to run our marriage. When I booked an appointment anyway, he called it a waste of money, ironic, considering his stance on my increased income. Looking back, I started noticing patterns I'd previously ignored. How he'd tensed up when I got my last raise 2 years ago, though he'd played it off as concern about increased responsibilities. How he discouraged me from applying to a prestigious industry conference, saying it would take too much time away from home. How he always framed my career ambitions as something that took away from our marriage rather than added to our future. Last weekend, his parents came over for our monthly family dinner. I watched in stunned silence as he lied to them, saying my promotion fell through because the company was restructuring. He told this elaborate story about budget cuts and corporate politics, all while shooting me these little glances, expecting me to play along. His mother reached across the table to pat my hand, saying, "Everything happens for a reason, dear. At least you still have your stable job." Something snapped inside me during that dinner. Maybe it was watching him lie so effortlessly. Maybe it was realizing how long I'd been playing along with his narrative. Or maybe it was finally understanding that this wasn't just about money, It was about control. I stayed quiet through dinner, smiled, nodded, played the perfect daughter-in-law, helped his mother clear the dishes while they discussed the unrealistic expectations young people have about careers nowadays. After they left, I waited until he settled in front of the TV with his usual evening beer. Then I handed him an envelope. "What's this?" he asked, barely looking up from his phone. "Divorce papers," I replied. "You wanted me to quit something, so I'm quitting this marriage instead." The look on his face, shock mixed with disbelief, told me he never expected me to actually stand up for myself. He started with his usual tactics, calling me selfish, saying I was choosing money over our marriage, threatening to tell everyone how I abandoned our family for greed. But here's the thing about financial independence. It gives you clarity. I realized I wasn't just dealing with a salary dispute. This was about control. For 7 years, I'd compromised my career multiple times to keep him comfortable. Turned down a job offer in a better company because it would mean I'd be at the same level as him. Stayed in a position I'd outgrown because he said it was good enough. Skipped networking events because he felt uncomfortable with me attending business dinners where other men would be present. I'd been dimming my light for so long, I'd forgotten how brightly I could shine. That night, I packed a bag and went to my sister's place. By morning, my phone was flooded with messages. His family called me everything from ungrateful to manipulative. His mother sent a long text about how this generation gives up too easily on marriage. His father, unsurprisingly, blamed feminist propaganda for corrupting my values. Some mutual friends have taken his side, saying I'm throwing away a good marriage over pride. They point out that he's never cheated, never been physically abusive, never denied me basic necessities, as if the bare minimum is something I should be grateful for. Others have reached out privately to support my decision, sharing their own stories of career compromises and regrets. He's now telling everyone who'll listen that I changed after getting the promotion, that money revealed my true character. He's not entirely wrong. This situation did reveal something, just not what he thinks. It showed me exactly who he was, and more importantly, who I am. The divorce proceedings start next week. My lawyer says I have a strong case for an uncontested divorce, given that we don't have children and most of our assets are clearly separated. Still, I catch myself wondering sometimes if I'm overreacting, if I should have tried harder to save our marriage. Then I remember his face when I told him about the promotion, and I know I'm making the right choice. Yesterday, I moved the last of my things out of our apartment. As I was packing, I found an old journal from when we first started dating. In it, I'd written about my dreams of running a company someday, of making a real impact in my industry. I'd shared these dreams with him on our third date, and he'd seemed so supportive then. "You can do anything you set your mind to," he'd said. I wonder now if he meant it, or if he just never thought I'd actually try. For those wondering why I didn't see these signs earlier, I did. I just chose to ignore them, to make excuses, to believe things would get better. I told myself he was just stressed about his own career, that he'd come around eventually, that marriage was about compromise. Sometimes the hardest part isn't making the decision, it's admitting to yourself that you should have made it sooner. The promotion starts next week. My new team seems excited to work with me, and my boss has been incredibly understanding about my need for flexibility during this transition period. I'm looking at apartments closer to the office, thinking about adopting a cat, and considering taking those programming courses I'd been interested in but put off because he thought they were unnecessary. It's strange how ending a marriage can feel like finding yourself again. Update, 2 weeks later. Thank you for all the support and advice. To address some common questions. Yes, I've documented everything, including his texts and emails about the promotion. My lawyer says it will help show a pattern of financial control. And no, I haven't gone back to the house alone since I left. My sister helped me get my essential belongings while he was at work. The most surprising development? After I moved out, 3 of his cousins contacted me privately to share similar experiences with their husbands. Apparently, this mindset runs in the family. One cousin confided that she turned down a VP position 5 years ago because her husband threatened to leave her. Another left her dream job to work at her husband's family business because of family expectations. They're all watching how this plays out, and maybe, just maybe, my story will help someone else find their courage too. My husband's latest move was to have his pastor call me about honoring my marriage vows. I politely informed him that financial abuse and emotional manipulation weren't part of those vows. The pastor, to his credit, actually listened and suggested counseling for my husband. I've also started seeing a therapist to work through some of the insecurities and doubts the situation has brought up. She's helping me recognize patterns I need to avoid in future relationships and rebuild the confidence that was slowly chipped away over the years. Some days are harder than others. Sometimes I miss the comfortable familiarity of our life together. Sometimes I question if I'm being too harsh, too unforgiving. But then I remember that staying would mean teaching any future daughters we might have that their dreams are less important than their husband's ego. It would mean showing any future sons that it's okay to hold their partners back out of insecurity. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in years, I'm excited to find out. My new office has a view of the city skyline, my team is collaborative and supportive, and I'm learning to trust my instincts again. Sometimes quitting isn't giving up, it's refusing to give in. Final update: the divorce will be finalized in 3 months. I'm keeping my promotion, my dreams, and my self-respect. He can keep his outdated views and his family's approval. Turns out, that's a trade I'm more than willing to make.